Okay.
Hey, good morning, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital. This is small group coaching for cohort number 3 for June 7th, 2024. Who would like to get us started? Well, maybe I will. I finished last week. I wrote 4 books with the assistance of my AI, my tireless AI writing partner. I'm finding it very inspirational and clarifying. I wrote one on prompt engineering for busy professionals. So that was a meta book because I used AI and prompt engineering to help me write the book on prompt engineering. Including the last section was a piece on how to put the AI in the questioner seat. So I just announce a topic, and then it starts to ask clarifying questions until it tells me that it has enough to be able to meet my intention. And scary good. And I'm going to finish up Ahmad's book with me on grinding through the FAQs. And this swing trading book is done. Then I wrote the one on the confident, part 1 of the confident communications model. I wish I could work as fast as I think. I've always said that. AI is making that happen, and it's terrifying how fast it can go, So that's what I'm up to. Get some family time later today, and had a lot of good barbecue this weekend with it for the Independence Day in the States. That's a big one for us. Liberty, don't tread on me. It may not be right, but by God, we're not uncertain. Often wrong, never in doubt. That's us. Watching the circus and the clown show that is our presidential election. It's just you just cannot understand it. It's just like the funniest part to me is the media pretending, oh, we had no idea that Biden was senile and had lost his mind. It's like, really? You haven't been watching him for the last 10 years in a state of steady decline? I mean, he was a clown show when he was Obama's vice president. Uh, you know, oh, Lord. I just, there's a saying out in Missouri, so, don't pee on my back and tell me it's raining. Anyway, there we are. But I hope the country's strong enough to deal with it. The thing that really bothers me as a career soldier is it's not about, oh, now what are we going to do about vis-a-vis Trump and the election and how are we going to win power and all of the other stuff with Biden in that condition. And I'm saying that's not the issue at all. It's not partisan. It's not even funny anymore. We're trying to run a nation, and this guy has the nuclear codes. Did you think that it's a good idea to let him make the decisions for national security? I mean, oh, that's the one that bothers me. You you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't let him drive you to the grocery store. You would not get in a car that he was driving, and yet he's driving the nation. There's not a job in America that he's qualified to do. You would never hire him for any job that you were ever hiring, and yet these educated people are trying to tell it. No, no, no. Here's why you got. Listen to me. Hear me out. It's going to be okay. Shut up. Frustrating. I got to get that out of my system because we're getting ready to start the military college up here in a couple weeks, and can't be talking politics in the classroom.
it's safe to talk about it on a recording. Of course, you have
Yeah.
the choice to. It's not. It's. I don't think it's very contentious what you said or not. It's not overly.
Yeah, Britain and the you're going to un-Brexit, maybe. I bet you. In 10 years, you guys will have reversed the Brexit. Man.
He said he's not. Well, let's see. I mean, we don't know. Okay, going back to, if you don't mind, Ken
Yeah.
and Hamad,
Yeah.
I was just reading today something about the Supreme Court's decision on presidential immunity. To be honest, that's escaped me completely
Yeah.
until today. And you
Yeah.
were talking about the military, and then this article goes on to say, and it's written by a very credible person, Maya. So and he says, what does the military think about it? They're not there to protect the president. What if he does whatever, funny
It's
things?
walking a very fine line, and that's where I actually had this conversation with guys at work, and that is, uh, what do you do when your professional ethics, the values of the organization that you have joined, conflict with your personal moral code? You know, and it, when it's all aligned, that's easy. I just, what do you do when it's starting to approach the edge, and what do you do when it goes over the edge? Do you say, well, I can, as soon as it does it, you have to say, no, I have to leave the organization after having my voice heard to try to change things. I have a moral obligation to leave the organization. I also have an ethical obligation to leave the organization. And then you say, well, if I do that, what just happened to the leadership, skill or value or of the organization? Uh, is there no hope of recovery? Can't we endure the heat a while and continue to work on longer term change? Which means that I have to end up executing orders that I don't agree with on a moral level. How bad does the deviation between organizational ethics and personal morality, how bad does that have to be before I have to leave? And it's more important to leave and make a point than it is to stay and try to fix it. So, from the military side on that topic, we consider our holy oath is to support and defend the Constitution
Yeah,
and
not the president.
the
The con-
lawful orders
yeah.
of the president and those appointed over us. So we're always in a position of evaluating independently the lawfulness of an order that was issued. And there you have to distinguish between an order you don't like or a policy you don't like, but one which is lawful and legal. And if you can't execute orders you don't like, then you have to get out. But then if you receive orders that you consider to be unlawful, then you have other actions. And then then your decision is, no, that's an unlawful order. I don't have to get out. You do, because you're issuing an unlawful order, but you don't have the authority to remove that person from office. And this decision of the Supreme Court to essentially give a president carte blanche while he's performing official duties is, you can have an opinion about it, but it's not your call to define that as, although at the personal level, we say, yeah, you have to make the decision at the personal level. And we have a lot of case studies that we look at in the college that take a look at guys that were willing to not follow an order they thought was unlawful, or in fact, even go further, to be insubordinate and to break an order that they thought was unlawful, to do something that they were explicitly ordered not to do. and were willing to turn themselves in and be face court martial, and because of their firm belief in what it was they were doing. So there's a reason why in our nuclear systems it's always a two-man requirement. You can receive the order all properly issued, but still two guys have to agree that it's a lawful order, and they're in a position where they're far enough away and they both have a weapon. The senior guy will point at what and say, turn the goddamn code, turn the key. Well, no. So that's a tough one. That's an area of moral and ethical focus. The Supreme Court decision didn't really change it all that much. It's just that we've never really thought we had a guy that could be in that position that would take such actions as violating the law to direct the assassination of a political opponent or a military. We're not even allowed to assassinate sworn enemies. Then to think that this guy could make a decision to punish political enemies, it boggles the mind. The two worst possible candidates, I could not even imagine when I was young. I could not even imagine that things could be this bad. And for decades, I never voted. I just said I have an obligation to stay out of the political process and just focus on my job, to deliberately not vote in order to not get involved. But I can no longer take that position anymore. Holy cow, gotta vote. Anyway, uh, interesting times. I always picture myself as like back in the Roman times as a senator, but coming from a small, poor family that was once prosperous in the early days, living in the provinces. Times have sort of passed us by, but we're still senators, and so I'm just watching the decay of the glory that was Rome, at the corruption and the shenanigans and wondering what in the world has become of my empire, of my city, of my people, and what can we do about it? Anyway, let's go ahead and get going. We're people of our times, and I just remember all that it takes for evil to prosper is that good men do nothing. So we're going to do something. All right, one of you get us started.
I can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, so my check-in, I guess. My daughter turned a year old, so um so that was a celebration, and then along with that kind of realizing that my system is working. Last month, June, I had my best month. I reported very positive numbers to my small group of investors. And kind of towards the end of June and the beginning of July, there were 2 days where I was struggling to maintain the zero state because of that. Oh, you're making money now, things are working, you're on a positive territory now, like make
That's
sure
a
you
hard
don't.
one.
Yeah.
That's actually a very hard position. I'll share with you a story of a guy who was grinding for a couple years, and every single time that together we sort of worked to the point of independence, and he would then take that as evidence that he could now do anything he wanted.
Mm.
And the very things that made him successful was the very first thing that he would jettison in order to, his sense of relief and reward was, I've now arrived, and now my judgment is on everything is any good. But it wasn't brilliance that got him to that position. It was relentless attention to detail and channeling all of the energy into repeatable professional behavior. That's not what he wanted. What he wanted was validation that he had arrived and all that other stuff. And every time you think about that, put your daughter on your lap and just say, really, is that what I'm now going to risk? I'm going to leave the things that got me here. So I'm always reluctant to tell guys, hey, it looks to me like you're getting it done and that you've hit an important milestone, because I always felt that gave him permission to start deviating. And, that was 10 years ago. And that still bothers me.
Oh, wow.
Trust trust in God, all others pay cash. Show me the numbers. That's why, to me, that 30, 60, 90 trade sequence, that rolling expectancy is the one true position. How am I doing? How are we doing? What's the slope of the line? That's all. That's all it is. And everything else is fleeting and impressionistic painting, if I can say it that way. You're always at that. I was thinking of you when I chose that background there, that pathway between the mountains. The land of milk and honey, it's right there. I can see it. This is where the bandits get you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is where the tiger lurks. Well, this is also where, the cavemen killed buffalo.
Yeah.
They patiently roll boulders up that hill, and the buffalo herd gets in there, and these guys roll boulders down the hill. If it hits a buffalo, it kills them, and they eat for a year. If it misses a buffalo, they're not hurt. They just have to, God, I got to push another boulder up this hill. So hopefully you find a mountain pass that has lots of boulders or whatever. Or if I'm throwing spears, at least you got gravity. So this little transition point is you had to pay real close attention and be careful, but keep moving just to get to this point. But then you got to do more of it to get through here, even though you can see the land of milk and honey beyond. So it's a reminder of keep doing the things that got you here.
Yeah.
And trust the numbers.
So the one thing I did with that is kind of along with trust the numbers is I've added another column to my trading journal, and I called it basically theoretical P&L, which is the P&L I would have generated on a single trade had I followed my rules to the dot, rather than kind of, I'm almost at no lose, I'm gonna move my stop now,
Yeah.
And well, let's see, I've applied it on 2 days, which is basically Friday of the week before, and then the Monday. And the divergence of P&L was basically 2 to 3 R on each day. So that kind of made me realize, okay, just
each day is
here.
Each day is a new day,
Exactly.
And that thing is just, we cannot reliably put the correct emphasis and the correct weighting on the evidence, that the way we decide to tip the scales and interpret it is almost always in the wrong direction. I just hate to say it that way.
Yeah.
But it's the same judgment that can lead us astray in that moment. You suddenly realize, well, how could that same judgment also produce a system of rules that I could follow that actually bootstraps and overcomes my, and it comes down to variation in your decision making, that in each little tactical decision, a decision to move it one way or the other is a coin flip or whatever. It has a payoff, but in the long run, we can nudge our way into precision and find our niche.
Yeah.
You think about for me, the resilient badger, how does he survive in a land with lions that outweigh him by 10 and that are faster than him? Well, because he digs his little niche and you don't want to be the first lion to put your face in there inside the badger's hole, because in that circumstance, it's badger all day. The lion's just hungry. The badger is defending his lair. That's the sort of relentless spirit that is enough. But within that context, you got to be within that. You got to set the conditions under which you decide, all right, lion, I'm drawing the line right here, buddy.
Yeah.
This side, my side. That side over there, that's all you. I accept that. But across this line, it's me. Let's go. You know, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's a good idea. When we were doing this was probably 10, maybe 15 years ago, we were doing the mechanical frog, up 100% pure mechanical rules. And we had a simulator and coded it up, and we knew exactly what the frog rules would get on each of these 100 case studies. And we taught the rules quickly, and then we just said, all right, let's start. Each one of you on the first 20 implement the rules case by case to make sure that we have evidence that you understand the rules. So we would do a case study, talk it out, and people say, oh, I should have, now I see. So it was in practice that people understood. And then what we did was, now we're going to give you a set of 10 without coaching, and now you do 10 and see what you come up with. And we would compare what everybody got against the perfect implementation of the robot. And even after that, it was 80% of the time people got different results because they were either consciously or unconsciously overriding the rules. And then we turned them loose after everybody could reliably only trade the rule set. And then we said, all right, now that you have 50 sets of these, and it's very clear that you understand the rules, I'm going to allow you to use your discretionary judgment. What you have to do is record why you decided to change the rules and what the difference between your numbers and the robot were. And you're going to do this in pairs, and your partner's just going to watch you to make sure that what you record in your journal is what you actually did. It turned out that was as hard as learning to do the rules, which is because they would come up with reasons after the fact of why they did what they did. It was different. So they had to have their trading partner to do that. And then after we got through that, we then, did 30 trades and said, whatever you want to do, you just go ahead and do it, you against the robot or whatever. And we had, if the expectancy of the robot was 0.3, we had guys that after 30 trades were minus 0.3, and some guys that were 0.9, that were 3 times better than the robot. And we determined that there actually is such a thing as trader quality number, that you could have guys that could reliably find ways to improve the rules at certain key points and have the discipline to do that, but not in other circumstances. And that allowed us to help find areas in which the published rule set could be improved. But it also showed me that there is some portion of the population, I don't know if it's will not or cannot. I think it's cannot follow rules in trading. They just can't. Not that they're a bad person, or it's just something in their psychology will not allow them to follow specific rules. And that was sort of we did that for 3 weekend workshops where we spent, a dozen hours doing that with probably 100 people. And the guys who traded best were the ones who recognized that under certain circumstances, their judgment had a positive expectancy. In this circuit, like maybe it's hey, I can recognize the dragon horns and take the sniper exit. Just that it's one time in 100 or one time in 50 or one time in 30, however often that happens. Whenever that happens, I see it, I know immediately what to do. I take the exit and make the big cash on that exceptional trade, which overcomes a lot of other places where the rule set or the trade just grinds. And over the long run, if they do that, once in a while you get a windfall and you never take a bigger than 1 hour loss, that histogram is just working in your favor all the time. It just occurred to me, that's how a snail moves. You look at a snail and you say, how in the world, or a turtle, how in a tortoise even, if I can say that, how does that thing ever even move? Because he's in his shell, he never goes backwards. He stretches out like the right side of his histogram and it pulls everything forward. And he looks around, is it safe? Stretches, and he only takes his little move as far as he can go, as far as he can comfortably stretch, and he gets there. There's a certain inevitability about the snail or the tortoise like that. And it's not an accident that the oldest living animal on the earth is a tortoise. I forget his name. I have a picture of him, but it's a couple hundred, almost 200 years old. Seen some things, yeah. And you would think that was, no way. That's the slowest moving dude on the planet. No, there he is. His name's like Henry or something. Anyway, I didn't mean to digress, but
No,
there we are. Yeah, go ahead.
it's all good. So yeah, that seemed to work because then when on Tuesday I just seemed to trade really well, very few mistakes. Actually none that I can think of Tuesday. And to me, I think making money on grindy days is more of a badge to me that I'm actually improving than making money on trending days, because that's always been a weakness for me.
Yeah. I mean, the trending day, even a monkey.
Yeah.
And like Buffett says, in a rising tide, everybody looks smart, but when the tide goes out, we can see who doesn't have any pants on.
Yeah.
And he's very right. And no backsliding. That's the key.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I did that really helped me out is I'm using the 3P sniper layout. And they have a functionality where you can get the Z3 lines to turn into a yellow background if the Z3s collapse.
Yeah, when they start to reverse. That's very helpful. It's like yellow alert.
Exactly. Do nothing there. Just wait for the Z3 breakout. So I implemented that and it worked really well on Tuesday when markets were not trending, which is exactly what I wanted.
The other time that will help you is when it comes time to take the sniper exit on a successful trade, is when that thing starts to roll over. You're at the peak of enjoyment, but at the same time it says, hey, watch, you got to be ready. You're stalking the exit. The same mentality that you use to wait for the right moment to enter in a pinch, you're stalking that entry. You're also stalking the exit after a really strong move, and you're trying to decide if you're going to exit sooner than the PSAR or the skin of the dragon. The idea that when the R10 reverses, the jump stop to the edge of the dragon is the first mechanical step to do that. But there are times when you can get even more if you get dragon horns. So
yeah. So that's kind of been the update on my end. Sent you the book, so that's all done. Went through our numbers from June, kind of overall big picture, a breakdown of how the histogram looks. based on 30-minute segments of
Yep.
the day. I've also looked at like the histogram in terms of what each symbol is bringing to the table. Unsurprisingly, EWZ is like a rock star. It's in a world of its own.
It
it's
really is, man. It's
Yeah.
it's the great, big, enormous, exciting economy. It has all the political shenanigans and the Latin blood and the spirit of karaoke and samba.
Yeah.
And it's not the US, it's not
Mhm.
Japan, and it's not Europe, but it's large, so it can move independently of those, and we're never surprised. It's a manic depressive market, which is perfect for a disciplined trader is looking for a manic depressive target because it is reliably volatile both directions and has clear turning points, and the mood lasts a long time, and it's a long
Yeah.
way back to the mid state. So you got to be able to harvest that energy, you know,
Mhm.
the same way that harvesting the oscillation of ocean waves for energy. The waves are caused by solar power, the response to variations in solar energy hitting different parts of the ocean creates weather, and part of that is creating, and the tidal forces is creating reliable waves. So if your instrument, your energy collector can ride that wave and make money in both directions, it's awesome. In the
Yeah.
same way that the thermal energy collectors in the ocean use the reliable difference in temperature of the water at the top to 200 feet down and find the chemical that is gaseous at the top and liquid at the bottom, and it harvests the energy of the transition between vapor and liquid. So that's just a machine to collect energy, both of
Mhm.
those. That's what we're trying to do with this thing. And yeah, so Brazil, both
Yeah.
directions, any time frame, it seems.
But I think in my opinion, like the more interesting kind of way of looking at it is, Brazil on paper, fantastic, the best trading instrument I've had in June. However, like there are days where you realize how the other team members also
Yeah,
add value.
yeah.
How DIA sometimes will step in and out of nowhere you get a 3R move.
Yeah,
Fantastic. I'll buy
and
that.
it just, yeah, DIA with that great big lumbering cow,
Yeah.
the slowest possible, the least volatile thing in the world, you would think, but has a certain relentlessness and inevitability when it starts to move.
Yeah.
So, and it can handle infinite size, essentially.
The cool thing that I really like about DIA is that when it moves, it's directional. Like
Yeah,
we're gonna have a move from here to there
yeah,
and just bank it, and then you're probably done for the day.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
The herd is gonna move to this pasture is done, and we're gonna move to a new part of the prairie until we get greener grass, and
Mm,
that we're going to move until we get there, and then we're going to stop and eat. And
yeah,
it doesn't matter what you say, that's what we're going to do. And
yeah,
you sort of learn that cowboy mentality, or the Plains Indians that would watch herds of 1 million bison moving at once. And you just realize there's an inevitability, and you learn to deal with that. Whereas like Brazil is like an antelope. It's going to dash, 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 dash. That will move at a moment's notice that you don't even know why, but suddenly it just goes. Don't try to understand why. That's what antelope do.
yeah,
Whereas bison behave in it. Yeah, I'm a hunter. So but do you hunt antelope or do you hunt bison? Well, they're different animals, and rabbits are different. So yeah, that's deciding what the characteristics of the target. So you could look at, if you look at EWZ and DIA as endpoints on a spectrum, at some point you could, I only need two.
Hmm.
A third one might be the volatility itself, VXX.
Yeah.
Or energy, to me, XLE, the energy is such an interesting one, because that is also really independent of both of those. It operates according to its own response to the price cycle of oil, which is a political decision which can change overnight, one phone call and it changes. So yeah, that's the composition of your chosen targets, deciding what you're going to be a specialist in. Is kind of key. I think about all those guys, trying to make a living directly off of nature. In the old days of my country, the beaver trappers and selective hunters. I fish a little bit. When it's time for the beavers, I do the beavers. When it's time to fish, I do the fish. When it's, be careful of bears, be careful of bears. Go to the pass in the mountains when it's time for bison, so you don't get stomped. Chase them off the edge of a cliff. Use fire and noise to move the herd. But you got to somehow move the herd towards a cliff. How do you do that reliably without getting stomped? Because if they realize it's a cliff, they're turning around and coming at you, and you don't want to be on the business end of a bison herd. The thunder chief.
Yeah, I like the idea of a fisherman, and you're
Yeah.
saying you're trying to catch different fish at different times of the day or different seasons as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, and that's kind of what I'm getting with DIA. EWW is just, I guess it's having one of those periods where it's just stuck in an SQC.
Yeah.
However, there is still value to be captured, and
you just have to calibrated expectations.
Yeah.
What do you get in this season?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And having the additional leg of like, oh, maybe, EWZ has a tendency of sometimes just kind of pick up nothing for the rest of the session, and then EWW would pull out a few moves, and here you go, you're up 1.5 hours,
Yeah. So now we're, that discussion of the span of control. How many do I need to have confidence that one out of the three is making the move today? If all three are moving, geez, your best day ever. But I have to have just enough so that each day one of those three is distinguishing itself as the mover. So if you go back to all our discussions about how do I find the mover? Well, ultimately, you see it moving,
Yeah.
If you think about our visual cortex, our brains evolved directly from our vision systems, and our vision is designed to detect anomalies, to detect movement on a background. The reason we see edges, so when I hold my hand up over here, you see my hand as a hand because you see the edge where the color is different in my hand compared to the screen behind me. And then what we notice is that the little wiggle immediately draws our attention. And so our brains are evolved to exactly say, oh, wiggling means it's alive. If it's alive, it might be something I can eat, or it's something that can eat me. The earlier version of that was light and shadow. Light is good. That means there's nothing between me and the sun. So I'm getting energy. A shadow, the introduction of a shadow says, uh-oh, something is moving towards me, and chances are it's going to eat me. Because if it didn't think it could eat me, it would not be moving toward me, because it knows I'm going to eat it. So the default position is fear. and fear creates movement or absolute non-movement so that it can't see me because I'm not wiggling. So that the whole visual cortex, how that connects to the way our brains are evolving. So now as we think about being a selective hunter, if I get 3 things on my screen and I can sort of feel how all 3 are moving together or not, it's like this thing move, that's the one. And so we get drawn to the difference. And then is that a calibrated move? And did it hit my trap? And my trap is, hey, just walk through this gate for the good food. And then when you go through there, I close the gate. That's no lose plus dinner for 2. Now that thing's going to grow until it's done. And then I'm going to harvest it. So as opposing to quick kill, it's just let it go through the gate into the new pasture. No lose plus dinner for 2. Now we're just going to see how much we get off of that one-way gate. And the trap doesn't need me to pull the trigger and make I can live. I have other ways to harvest, you know. And if you capture a wild animal and it has offspring, now suddenly you got COTA 2 entries.
Yeah.
All the way up forever. Okay. All right, what else?
So yeah, these are the things I worked on. I took some time off, just to kind of, because I haven't taken any time off since the beginning of the year. I'm kind of going at it every day. Definitely been feeling the pressure of running the business and making sure the numbers are positive. But then along with that same token, I got to make sure I'm okay as well. So, and I'd like to take my daughter out on a holiday. It's the first time she travels. My wife too wants to go on a holiday. All 3 of us together, build some memories. So that's kind of something else that I've kind of been working off the back of my mind. And I don't want to say I've been getting anxious about it, but it's something I've definitely been thinking about since I've got this momentum going in my favor. Do I want to take a break now before it gets to limited production?
Yeah.
Or do I kind of just head down, grind through it till the end of the year, make sure we end the year on a positive note, and hopefully try to market some of my services to friends. So that's kind of where I'm mentally.
Yeah, the transition into production, that's why I said you're in the development and with a foot in production. That's why you're in that.
Yeah.
That background is key. There's in machine gunnery, we take a look at the weapon, and we have 3 rates of fire. There is the cyclic rate of fire, and that is how fast will that thing fire if I just hold the trigger down with unlimited ammo. It's in the M60 machine gun, air-cooled 7.62 millimeter. It fires 550 rounds a minute. And you have to change the barrel every minute because after 3 minutes, the barrel will start to warp. The rapid rate is the next one. Well, let me go to the other. The sustained rate of fire is 100 rounds a minute, changing the barrel every 10 minutes. And the gunner is trained to pull the trigger and say to himself, fire a 3-round burst, let go, and then count to 8, fire a 3-round burst, fire a 3-round. So I can do that. That's 100 rounds a minute, and change the barrel every 10 minutes because in the interval, the barrel will cool, and I don't have to change the system. The rapid rate is in between. That's where I only count to 4. And that's 200 rounds a minute, but I have to change the barrel every 2 minutes. Just that difference between 100 rounds a minute and 200 rounds a minute, I have to change the barrel 5 times as often. So when we're thinking about machine gunnery, it's better to have 3 guns firing at the sustained rate of fire. It preserves ammo. It minimizes the amount of barrel changes I have to do, which is always a possibility of creating an error. Because you're laying on your side and you got an asbestos mitten and you're trying to change this hot barrel with live ammunition. And you better have put the barrel in and locked it down and not introduced dirt and dust into the chamber, or you're going to have a problem. So
Yeah.
in order to reduce that kind of error, we would like to change the barrel infrequently, periodic review. So that's what you got to watch on your own performance, is the sustained rate of fire. It's if you're road marching, it's the same thing. I can walk at 15 minutes a mile forever. I can do 30 miles a day with a load on, which is, now just moving up to 12 and a half minutes, I'm moving as fast as I can, and I can only sustain that a certain amount. To walk at 18 minutes a mile, that's one where we say anything beyond 12 miles, you have to walk slower so that you can sustain and recover and rest. So you got to sort that out. That's an important part of your system. When do you change the oil? How often do you let the engine rest? Let the driver rest. You can't just keep taking amphetamines and coffee and keep, I'm doing this for the family. Is that really good long-term for the family? What's the sustained, what's healthy and sustainable? Having that, knowing where you are in that zone, or the same kind of logic, you got to sort that out. But again, you never get that time back with them. So you have to be intentional about it. And that means you also need a shutdown procedure and a startup procedure for the shorter term trading. You would like to have a longer term one that is stable and requires something like the BMR or longer term swings that can just kind of go with the tide. And then other ones where you're hunting. So you got to have some gathering and growing of the crop. So you're looking at a meta system on that one to give you the ability to step back from the hot engine and the fire. Those Japanese sword makers weren't making swords in the heat of the forge, swinging heavy hammers every waking moment. There were times they had to doing other things as well. So you got to find that balance in your life as well. So that's part of it.
Yeah, it kind of brings me to this question. So, and this is something I've kind of been thinking about, which is, as you mentioned, the longer term sort of swing. I like the concept of the 3-day, 9-day sniper. I actually really like the concept of like the 3-day, once every 3 days, I got to make a decision. It's either entry, move my stop. And kind of knowing myself, I tend to jump around a lot between different ideas. Oh, let's chase this for a bit. Let's chase this for a bit. Let's chase that for a bit, which is great when you're exploring.
Yeah.
When you, I mean, I guess you're always exploring, right, in life, even when you're
sure. But you have to find a way to make that a very clear distinction in your mind about what game you're playing or what system you're operating, even to the point where you make those decisions in a different room of your house. When I sit down at this table and just pull up the laptop for this 15 minutes on a Saturday or an hour, whatever it's going to be, my job is to adjust this account for those positions with a fresh look and remember what it is I'm going to do. When I've done the work, I close that up. I'm coming back on Saturday before I touch any of that.
Yeah.
And that should be in a separate account so that you're not teased into doing those other things. And the shorter term systems will act as either a reinforcement or a hedge against that position. And then you can decide from that other one, said, oh, this position I really like, I want to keep it going, but this is where I got to draw that red line. Do I need a hedge or can I reinforce? and then
Yeah.
put that position and then leave it close up that shop and don't come back for 3 days.
Yeah.
And you got to keep that distinction in your mind. Otherwise, they will tend to blur together. And I do that by having different accounts for my wife and for me and for the kids, so that when I'm making those adjustments, I'm only adjusting it on that certain frequency.
Yeah.
And I just got to keep the relative level of capital balanced, which is a different algorithm. To say, oh, it's time to shift money around a little bit. And it's always in the direction away from the shorter term trading.
Yeah.
But as that makes money and it's heating up, I just know I got to cool off and just set that into the outriggers, or like the fins on a radiator that allows it to cool off a little bit. And that's like the sustained rate of fire in machine gunnery. Is that thing is just going to do what it does. And I've created some safe space in there for that capital. Philosophically, I know that was money that was not seed capital. That was earned money, so I can relax a little more with it. So those are the ways I'd start thinking about that.
And when would you recommend for someone like me, or like kind of start thinking about that? Is it too early for me to start thinking? I mean,
Nope.
thinking about I can do that all the time, but like actually
Now,
spend the time with the research.
as soon as you recognize that you have a need to step away from the, I think of it as the foundry. You know, in Pittsburgh, where I grew up, you could see the steel mills running all night, 24/7. Because once they heat that thing up, and so these guys are pouring steel, and it's hot as shit, and you can't stay in there all day. You got to back away from the forge. And as soon as you feel, then hey, I now that I've sort of mastered that process to a sufficient degree, I need to have this. That's where you need to have those other ways. You got to start designing that. Don't wait till you're under a lot of pressure to then hurry up and no. You got to start developing those systems now. And I would start with the templates from the Bill Scheidt and the BMR and the 3-day sniper. That's how to do it. Start and then go through the same kind of piloting, limited rate production, full rate production on that at its own reasonable pace, and start incrementing into that. So you ease into that comfortably. But you got to start that now.
Yeah.
It's I was talking to a kid this weekend at one of the barbecues. He's in pre-med, and he's thinking about he's got to take his MCATs, which is the test to get into med school, and he's going to take that in January. And so he was talking with my daughter about, well, how did she succeed at the MCATs and get accepted into med school, and how did she approach studying? What he was going to do, his plan was he was going all in right now on the content of the test, and that later on, 30 days out from the test, he was going to start studying how to take a test correctly. And we suggested, now what you need right now to take your first practice test so that you remove all the mystery of it, and you can start letting that simmer and cook and get to that in time. And go back and forth between content and process, so that you're making progress along each one. Don't just keep taking practice tests or you lose the content. But you can't just study all your content and then 30 days before the test start studying how to take a test. It's like, oh shit. Because now you're hoping that that's the best method of taking the test. You're waiting 30 days ahead of time before the test to discover if you've got major malfunctions in how you take tests. You don't have any recovery time. So the sooner you start, as soon as this thing is starting to work, you got to be thinking about developing these other ones so you can ease into it and then add that to your repertoire. In the same way that you add an extra symbol for span of control for tactical trading, you got to be thinking about adding the longer term systems to to your skill set for sustainable meta system work. So that's why I'd start that now.
Okay.
And I'd start with the BMR.
BMR would be the easiest to apply, you'd say?
Yeah, I think so, because it allows you to take a look at a position that you're only going to decide on once a month. And it's going to give you from a choice of 10, 20, 30, 3 or 4 candidates that really are standing out because of relative strength, with the idea that that could endure for months. Well, all I did there was give myself really easy candidates for 3 and 9 day sniper. I have a directional bias. That's the same mindset that you use. Oh, I got a new swing trade signal tonight. That means for the next 3 to 5 days, there's a directional bias. If the market's rising and this thing's better than the market, that's an instant buy. So I'm using the longer term system as my filter for optimized turbo trading. Well, if I just go back out and I'm looking at symbols that are standing out on a 3-month and 6-month, and that could endure for 12 months. Now all I got to do is go a little bit faster on a 3-day or a 9-day bar and find patterns that are easy to consider. And you might even take not just the ones that are in BMR, but you might take the top 10 out of 100 ETFs. See which of those 10 are lining up correctly on the 3-day and 9-day. And so in 10 minutes, you could answer that question. That's all the research you need to do for a whole month. And you can kind of see which ones are getting close to the entry. And then your span of control on that one could be 10 different symbols at once, out of a population of 100 or out of a population of 50. I'd rather have the top 5 candidates out of 30. 30 is manageable because you can see that on one screen. And that way you don't feel trapped by the once a month decision of the BMR. I gotta wait a whole month. No, I can put the turbo on that and look at it every 3 days or every 9 days or something like that. And then that way you can ease into. Then you have long-term and turbo, and then you have swing trade and turbo, and then you have the reliable lawnmower engine that just grinding, and throwing off money towards the longer systems that slowly are growing. Now you have a short, medium, and long-term view, and that's that opening page on the new daily report, as you know, position trading, swing trading, and day trading.
Yeah.
And then the core and turbo that bridges both of those. And then the daily chart is the break in contact between day trading and long term. It's the gap.
Yeah.
But it's also the daily discipline. I get 200 days a year to make where my judgment can make a difference in a small way. I only got 50 weeks a year. I only got 10 months a year.
Yeah.
So to me, there's actually more risk on the longer term when your judgment is refined as a hunter. You want to hunt every day. I think, but you got to go where the animals are.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a lot trickier playing it on the long term. I don't have I've never played the longest the longest chart I've ever played was like the hourly. So for
Yeah,
me,
it's a different mindset. But once you're used to looking at the patterns, and you can make, like on a 9-day chart, you still only need 3 seconds to make that decision. So And you know how soon, you know how far it has to move before you have to actually make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of along with that, my interest in taking more courses also spiked because like I've got all these great ideas that I want to test very
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
And so like the Edge Rater course is looking more and more attractive the more I learn.
Edge Rater's pretty cool.
Yeah. I saw the talk you gave to them I think on, was it
A couple
Friday or
weeks ago. Yeah.
yeah.
Couple of Saturdays ago. Yeah.
And
That
I
was pretty good.
that was really good. And then the way it was organized, it was just like, boom, this is like, instead of me doing things by pen and paper, quick answer, quick response. Okay, now I've got it all tested. In theory, this is how it should work. Let's go and apply it and see what works. Kind of gives me a better platform to stand on
Yeah.
when I'm actually implementing ideas rather than let's see if this works. Okay, historical evidence suggests that this could work. So let's look at application.
Yeah. That one covers, that one flashcard right there covers, I was sort of inspired by your plan, prepare, execute, and assess. It's our relationship to the market and everybody else and the psychology is everything below the line. And then the performance model, and then the plan, prepare, execute, assess, keeping it simple. And then this little model here in the middle, sort of, it shows the Z3 pinch or super pinch. You just so that's the perfect critical state with the 3-to-1, and the idea of the quick no lose plus dinner for two. That's closing the gate and then letting the thing. You're always going to get that little bit. You might get more based on the life cycle and and the state of nature. The list is your herd. The sources of patterns that you're mastering one at a time. Then the ruthless execution of the sniper mentality, just taking the shot, and then remembering how normal processes evolve in the histogram. The idea of using evidence to put that wedge in so there's no backsliding. The power of the after action review to extract the most learning value out of each and every trade. And then keeping it simple on patterns, techniques, managing the exits, and how we learn. And then the idea that it's I get 9 out of the 10 decisions I make in the life cycle of that trade have everything to do with adjusting the stop and continually evaluating reward to risk in the same way that it started off with a reasonable reward to risk, a manageable, reasonable reward to risk ratio. And then it decided to enter when it left the frame. Oh, there's the entry. At some point, I didn't even have to make the decision to enter. I just had to construct the correct frame and then let it move in its own way. And it goes through one-way gates. It can only go in one direction or another. And how far out is it going to go? And you're always, adjusting that stop. So it's the evaluation of current reward to risk ratios and the updating the frame, updating your lens of how you look at that. Where's the measured channel? The sharp points of the RL10 on any time frame. And so that chart right there has probably taken me 30 years to render it down just into that. And I don't know if I need anything else at some point. And your overlay with your one page, if you could send me you probably already did, but if you wouldn't mind sending me your updated template, your one-page process, I want to overlay that on this and include that in the book if we can. So yeah, I thought the Edge Rater for all of those other patterns and the back testing and all that stuff too, gives you information independence from my reports. I'm 67 years old. You got to have some way to generate. That's the mindful scout. If we think about in this model, that mindful scout here in the middle is looking in all directions. What should I be focusing on? The persistent badger at the top of that is that I never forget to defend my position and be relentless, and always remember I got thick skin and I got the teeth and the claws to do the work and a willingness to use them. And then when I have those two things, then I can be the diligent student. A diligent student has to be kind of focused inward and looking carefully at the thing we're focusing on. What protects the diligent student? The mindful scout who sets up the perimeter looking for danger. Hey, there's enough safe time here for you to be a diligent student. Oh, okay. And if that ever changes, I got a persistent badger that's going to protect me until I get into pick up all my stuff and get into my hidey hole or whatever. And then once you kind of get through that development stage, you can be the master craftsman. You can be a Dharma warrior in the direction of your values. And you can be a resourceful catalyst because you have the tools. And if you don't have the right tool, you can imagine what that tool needs to be to perform the function that you now need to do. And now your master craftsman can make the tool or adapt a tool into what you need to realize the vision of the Dharma warrior. So that mindful scout in the middle is sort of, continuous observation and awareness of what's going on in all the directions, and making sure that these other, under the discovery phase, these psychological states, personas, each one of those actually has a strength to it. When we first started that model, it was that was preventing me from moving into development, my fears and anxieties.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm an introverted expert. Well, guess what? Guess what the diligent student is relying upon to make internal confident learning happen. I'm introverted, so I can work on my own by myself in my space, and I'm becoming an expert in those areas I expect to become an expert. Okay, well, if I didn't have that, I might defer to the learning that other people claim to have discovered, and I haven't independently tested. So it turns out that these things that started off initially, we thought of them as problematic or things I got to avoid. No, it's just those are qualities that, taken in the right measure, are part of a nutritious development. That I've got to be reluctant, humble, restrained, but I also got to be a leader. I got to have the willingness to take responsibility for those things. I'm reluctant to say that, hey, I'm always the best person to be that person. But there are times when I am that person. I got to be that person. So I got to be very deliberate on deciding when to be the leader of a thing. And it's got to be connected to the Dharma warrior, who is my ultimate vision and purpose. And then the anxious perfectionist is simply a commitment to excellence, that I really am trying to get continuous improvement. I'm perfecting that. When I turn that into a verb and I'm doing things, then I'm making progress in the direction of development and performance. And I'm anxious because I have a sense of urgency that I only have a certain amount of time in which I have to be focused. If all you do is dwell on the nouns, then you get locked into that as an unchanging way. But if you turn each of those into a verb, I am developing expertise. Oh, okay. And trusting my own eyes, developing my own coaching eyes and habits. and I am leading carefully, that reluctant leader, by learning to trust the mindful scout, then becomes free and confident enough to become the Dharma warrior. So this is like a Pokemon evolution chart. The anxious perfectionist shifts into becoming a diligent student to learn the craft and ends up becoming a master craftsman. And the introverted expert learns to trust the persistent badger to keep going, checking in periodically, but relentless, and then gathering those important nuggets along the way and protecting them to be able to share with others. You got to have that. When you have periods of, abundance, you got to be putting that into enduring artifacts that allow us to go to the warehouse, go to the storehouse, and accumulate that capital. I got to have a protected place, and that's what. So there is an activity basis for all these. This is knowledge in motion, if I can say it that way. So that mindful scout, learning to see, to be able to step outside of the comfort zone, and of all things, where is the area that I need to decide? So there's an executive agent in charge of all this stuff. It's the hidden one, the 10th state, the trail boss, who's watching all 9 of those little elements. It's the one on this side of the screen looking at that template. So now, who's that person? And how do we care for that guy? And how does he develop the judgment of knowing how much to allocate to each one of those, and how to handle all the people that are on the team in support of the next generation? Your daughter, who we're doing this for. So you got to be the trail boss of this. You're not just one of those, you're all of those, and you're the right mix and the blend, and monitoring the progress of this wagon loaded with everything, moving across, in my culture, moving across the pioneer spirit. The trail boss is the one who has to. If you watch the the Seven Samurai movie, it's the old guy, Takeshi Shimada, assembling the guys on the team, and the wisdom piece, the trail boss, but also responsible. There's only like one time in that whole movie when he has to perform the warrior function. And that's early on when he goes in. There was some wild man had captured the little baby and is holding her at ransom, and the village doesn't know what to do. And he walks in and he does it. And the rest of the movie, it's always he got the right guys on the team and they're doing their thing as needed. When it came down to it, for the little baby girl, he was the guy. He did it, the master swordsman. So these are the 9 visible states. The 10th one is the idea of the trail boss. And you got to monitor the trail boss, the reflective chief of staff, relentless, always on patrol, always scanning, always looking for the next thing. But he's got to sleep too. So we got to know when it is that guy can rest. And that's kind of where you're at right now, I think. Just sorting that out. All right, let's roll over to Kyun.
Yep.
Thanks for your patience.
No problem. Good stuff. Good stuff, Ahmad. Well done for the good June. Can I maybe share my screen? There's a lot of stuff here. They're really good stuff. Just so many things. I'm trying to kind of gather my thoughts and I have things to share. Don't worry, there'll be lots. Maybe I'll just ask you off, so kind of unprepared stuff. You were talking about BMR, so maybe I ask you about ETF2. One of the problems I have is, for example, when you go down to, whatever it is, it's 70%, I think, this week.
Yeah.
And what if my top three are already stocked up? Do I go for the next seven, or
No.
do I go up to the next four down?
Yeah. So the rules of that system, and it's the first thing you got to remember on BMR is that once we take a position on any given or an ETF2, it's a weekly decision. But on BMR, I'll start with that one.
Yeah.
When you take the position at that moment, you had a favorable condition in the ETF, and the risk allocation model allowed you to make an entry. You had money available. I actually let me share this screen so you can visualize this as we go. I actually think it's easier to see it than just imagine and try to imagine what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's a whole lot about asset allocation and capital allocation when you start doing BMR.
Yeah,
like
BMR is.
I thought, it's just.
Yeah, it's non-trivial. It's
non-trivial. It's non-trivial. So yeah, you're right. That's exactly it.
Let's see. Annotate. Yeah. So BMR 13. So each month I got to make a decision, and there's an asset allocation model, and that's based on the 10 regions of the world, and they have to be greater than their 4-month moving average, the 4MA. If it's better than its 4-month moving average, it's ownable. If it's not, then its rating is in cash. So I got 10 symbols over here in the world market model. 5 of them are in the US, I think. My pen is acting funny. It should read US. And 5 are in the globals. And so each month, like right now, I think it's 70%. So it's like,
yeah, that's right. This week is
so there's 7, or no, I'm sorry. There's 3 that are below their 4-month moving average, and there's 7 that are above their 4-month moving average. And so that means, like right now, the globe itself is in pretty good shape. And it allows us to have sort of the maximum theoretical exposure. The theoretical exposure this week is 70%. And I update that every week.
Yes.
But I'm only making a decision in BMR once a month.
Right.
And I'm looking at, 13 different symbols. And most of those are in this list, but there's some extras, right? So what the asset allocation model does is looks at the weekly condition of the globe and says, given the conditions right now, starting from scratch, that's supposed to be a globe. Jeez, that pen. I think I updated some drivers, and I think maybe I didn't have to reinstall the pen. So it looks at that and says, what is the theoretical exposure? And so when I come to this decision over here on the once a month, it's going to tell me rank these by the 3 and the 6 month blended monthly performance and come up with a score, the blended monthly percentage. And then that gives me the rank order for those 13.
Yep.
And then I'm supposed to have, if I was starting from scratch, I want to own the top 3, but only if it's on a green dot, like it's above its own 4-month moving average. Okay.
Mhm.
So in order to, if I was starting from scratch, I would say those 3 are ownable. So I want to buy 1/3 in each. I'm going to put my available capital 1/3 into each. If and only if I don't exceed this. This acts as a top level governor about, can I add money into that system? Can I add money? Don't exceed this number when you're thinking about adding money. All right. So let's suppose on month 1, I was at 100% allocation in the theoretical model. So this one says, hey, when I look at it, all 7 or all 10 were above. So I could be 100%. Awesome. Great time to be alive. So I run the numbers on the BMR 13, and the top 3 are the top 3, and all 3 are green light go. I can own a full 1/3 of my capital onto all 3 positions, and I'm going to use a 10% trailing stop. So now the most important thing for that position is where the stop is for that position. Because the idea is that at the moment that I bought them, everything was 100% and go. So I'm in the ones that should be continuing to lead the market north. But as I go through time, if that thing now drops to 70%, that means that the bottom 3, the bottom 3 are now allegedly like that, or the bottom 3 were like this. So the ones that are underperforming are going to start dropping below their 4-month moving average, but the leaders are continuing to lead. So just because the global market suddenly got 30% weak, the leaders are still continuing to lead. They're still healthy. So I want to be in the ones that are leading. And it may be that these things got bad for a while, and then they recovered, and then they start next week. A couple of them go back to green, and now I'm up to 90%. I didn't let the weakness of the weaklings chase me out of the strength of the strong ones. What I did was I looked at properly placing the stop on the strong ones and let that make my decision on when to get out of that position. Now, as I go through each decision month to month, those are arrows, month month 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and so on. This number here could keep changing. And I'm going to be selling some things, like maybe at some point this third one, it earns some money and then it hit its 10% stop intra-month. So now what I got is, when I go into the monthly decision out here, what I've got is I've got 2 active positions and I've got a group of cash. Right. So maybe I'm only 2/3 of my capital is exposed. And the new number is 70%. So my theoretical exposure is higher than my current exposure. That means I'm allowed to add money up to this level, which means I could probably add 7% or 10% of my capital, whatever. And I could put it in, and I would want to own 3 positions. So now what I do is I come over and look at the numbers of the 13. Now it could have been that the 2 that I'm still in are now in positions 4 and 5. And they haven't hit their 10% trailing stop. What the system calls for is cashing those 2 and raising money, plus I have the money that I raised from this other one that hit its trailing stop during the month. And so now I've got 100% of my cash available. Check?
Check.
And I'm allowed to, on this month, when I'm making the decision, I'm allowed to put 70% of it in. And I look at my top 3 and I say, look, if all 3 of the top 3 are on green, then I divide that 70 by 3 and I buy equal dollar positions in those 3, and I keep 30% in cash. Check?
A check. Yeah.
But if the 2 that I owned last month are still in the top 3 and they are fully vested, then I've got 65% of my money in my open positions, and only 30. I can only add 5% into the third position.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Check.
Yeah. And so anytime my trailing stop gets me out into a month, and that money goes to cash and waits until it's time to decide if I can add money into the system on the monthly decision. That way I'm not chasing. And then I can get out of a position once a month if it turns out that it is moved from the leadership into followership, and now a new strength has emerged, and that's the one that's best postured for the long roll ahead. So what I'm doing is I'm trading up, and so that means I have to sell it in order to buy it. But once I take that full amount of cash, I can only put in as much as the asset allocation allows me. So I could trade up, but it could be at a smaller position because of the changing nature of this world market.
Right.
Now, here's the final trick on this was, so let's suppose that I had on month 1 that I had all 3 positions in. Then during the month, one of them cashed out. So now I've got 2 out of the 3 still active. And now both of those fell to position 4 and 5. So I go to 100% cash temporarily in order to rebalance, and I can rebalance the 70% of my money. And then I go to the numbers and I say, oh man, the third position is in the red.
Mhm.
And the top two are in the green. Here's my decision. I buy a full position on signal 1 and signal 2. And now I only commit 2/3
Right.
of my capital. Even though I could have put 70% in, I buy a full position in the top two. And then this one, instead of buying it, I put that money into cash for this month. I don't go down the list and find the first next green.
Understood.
I respect the asset allocation model, which says you should only have 70% in. So I buy, in this case, up the 67% of the first two positions, and I let the 10% trailing stop govern its move in the world. Now, later on, next month, in the BMR, I wait till next month. Next month, I check it out and see what's going on. On the ETF2, I'm making this decision ETF2, I'm making this decision weekly.
Weekly, yeah.
Now, that turns out to be a painful way to do swing trading. It really is. It's not bad. What the worst drawdown this has ever had is like 8%.
That's very good. 8%.
And that's at a time when markets, 4 times in the last 20 years, markets have lost from 50 to 80%.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that prior to those big meltdowns, there were parts of the world market that were just getting slaughtered.
Yeah.
So our leadership was continuing to lead, but when everything crapped out, we were already at a really low exposure. And the 10% loss in the leaders only represented a 1 to 3% portfolio hit because we were already safely in cash.
Okay.
So that's really hard to express in writing. The BMR
No, I understand.
model does express that, but what makes this thing magical is the combination of relaxed relative strength for the long haul, but a tactical asset allocation model that governs, can I add money to this? As long as everything is green in the world and going, and everything is above its 4-month moving average.
Yeah.
That includes US, the Dow, the mid caps, the S&P, technology, and real estate. When all of those least correlated US assets are all above their 4-month moving average and going, awesome. And then in the globals, it's Eurasia, Japan, emerging markets. I'm trying to remember a couple
Asia
of
less Japan.
Asia less Japan.
Latin America.
Yeah.
And Europe.
Yeah. So when every possible member of the top 10 regions of the world are all going up together, yeah, you're at 100%. Go buy the winners. Make a tactical decision if you need to rebalance a little bit, but don't cut yourself. I mean, don't try to over optimize. because it'll never start the month at perfect 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. You could rebalance, I suppose, but in that case, I would just let the winningest winner win and just let him
Yeah.
keep growing
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
adjust his 10%. What I've learned is if you get a position in that's greater than 15% profit, adjust your trailing stop to 5%.
Okay, that's useful.
Or trim it, or trim the excess. Like you might have a position where if we started the month, everything was perfectly at 33%, but because one of them had really done super, super well,
Mm.
and this thing had grown to 50%, and these other ones were still doing good, but because the other one had done so well, it only represented 25%. I would cut that into threes. And so keep that. I would take, so essentially take 2/3 and put an extra piece into each one of those. Or
Okay.
wait for the end of the month
Yeah.
and trim it all back to this. And then I have some money. So I harvested the engine. And so maybe now this represented a 90% allocation, now equally balanced, and now I had 10%. Can I reinvest that? I come back and look at what's the weekly asset allocation model look like now? If that was at 60, I would keep that 10% in cash. And I would be 90-10 in my actual positions. And equally balanced, and they're all green, so they're good to go, and they're protected by their 10%. But I harvested that extra little piece, which was 10%, and put that into cash.
Yeah.
I don't sell these in order to meet the weekly asset allocation. That just tells me, can I put new money in? That's all.
Okay.
Once it's in and working, I let it work and I trust the trailing stop. Now, how would I adjust the trailing? How would I improve this? Instead of just a 10% trailing stop, I would take a look at the 3 and 9 day model and say, here's where it is, here's the price, and here's where the PSAR is. And that's almost never going to be a 10% stop.
No.
I would just keep incrementing and adjusting. On the 3 and 9 day, it turns out that is wide enough and it adapts. And it allows the price action to wobble a little bit, but it never comes back a full 10%. I've learned to trust the PSAR on the 3 and the 9 day. And if you even did half and half, that's probably a
3 and 9 day. Is that separate charts, 3-day charts and 9-day charts, or is there some kind of mix?
In the same way that I show on the weekend report the 3-day chart of SPY and the 9-day chart of SPY. I would just run that on the 3 positions that you own. You know what I would do if I was doing the BMR fully? I would do what I do, and that is have a separate folder with those 13, and then just look at all of them every weekend on the 3 and the 9 day.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you could, in literally 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You could make your decision on how to adjust. You could use that to adjust the stops on the 3 that you own. And you could be watching these other ones to stalk for opportunities. Once you get into that rhythm, my spider sense is that after about 3 months, you could just take a pot of money and decide that you could have between 3 and 5 positions and just monitor them on a weekly basis. Like, you know, how I was doing the 30-minute swing and just marching each one
Yeah.
forward on its own merits. Imagine
Yeah.
that was me doing that on a 3-day and a 9-day chart once a week.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's useful.
Exactly the same way. Now, with that, I'm trying to talk you out of the BMR, but I'm not really. The magic of the asset allocation model, that's the first thing that I look at every week. What
Yeah.
is the condition? What is the condition of the globe? So that I don't lose my goddamn mind. And I look at the stack saying which ones I should be owning, the ones that it says to own. Let me go look at and if I'm not owning that, I'm wondering why. How can I just got to get into that thing with the PSAR stop.
Yeah.
And then if I put my money into 10, put your money into 10 chunks, that's the amount of money that I want to put in on each new position that's ownable. And the only time you could even get into that, if it's below its 4-month moving average, was if you decided that you were going to do an SSC. So maybe you decide, I'm not going to do the SSCs, or maybe I do the SSC on a 3-day, and then as that thing keeps moving up, the COTA 2s on a 3-day become an SSC on a 9-day or whatever, something like that. So I might even put my money into 20 piles of 5% and control half of it with the 3-day and half of it with the 9-day. And just manage individual positions. And now what you're doing is you've got a herd of 10 or 13 symbols, and you want to own, I think you want to own about the best 5 with active positions and with a certain amount of cash. And then as you see a new one, the leadership goes to the back to rest and a new leadership comes forward. You start looking for the patterns that you notice and put money on it and just manage it according to the 3-day and the 9-day, just like that. I mean, and then use the BMR as the guide. So you might have pure BMR for 20% of your allocation. Pure swing. God, that pen, I gotta update the driver.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That looks more like it. It looks more readable. So, but you're picking the candidates all from that 113 BMR. Are you saying is that right? The 13.
Or all the way up to the 32.
Yeah, 32.
You decide how far you want to stretch.
Okay. All right.
That's your span of control. And then I have about 30 symbols here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So that's what my allocation looks like.
Okay.
So the BMR gives information to this. It has its own rule set to work with this money, and it gives information about which targets are best suited. But I'm willing to look at the entire population, because some of them may be changing faster intra-month, and it's not going to be to the end of the month or next month that the thing is moved all the way to the top on a pure relative strength leadership basis. But intra-month and week to week or whatever, every 3 or 9 days, I could be seeing patterns that give me this, whereas the BMR candidate is all the way up here. So this guy has to work his way all the way up to a new leadership position before it can become BMR. But I might be able to do COTA 2 trading as it moves from the middle of the pack to the top of the pack, and it's continuing to improve its position. And meanwhile, I'm swing trading it on 3 and 9 day all the way up the stack until it becomes a true leader, and then I can hold it for once a month. So this is core and turbo on that time frame, and that's governing about 40% of my money. And then the 30-minute swing, where I'm holding overnight risk selectively, but piling on intraday, has about 20%. And then my day trade is my engine, and that thing is throwing money. Each of these is throwing money that way. So this is like the great big wagon. And this is like a wheelbarrow. And then this is how much, this is my backpack. God dang this pen. Back. Pack. How much I can carry overnight. And this is what's in my hands. And on my utility belt. So direct fighting. So overnight, my worst overnight exposure is 60%. And if I thought something was crazy, I could use this to put in a hedge position overnight to be market neutral for tomorrow. And then and then if the market's working, I just take the hedge off. And then those three I always know what's my net position going long. And maybe this one is rarely, maybe 1 out of 10 or as much as 1 out of 5 is carried overnight. So I don't actually have that much overnight. And the ones I have overnight risk on are either very clearly market leaders or have a comfortable margin of safety down to the PSAR. So that's the way I think about my 100% allocation.
Yeah, no, that's great. So on the ETF2, the biggest universe.
Yeah.
The
ETF Max.
The ETF Max.
Yeah, it's really like ETF 100.
Yeah.
Because you get some
there's
duplication.
one that's even bigger, isn't it? Wait, hold on.
There's an ETF Max.
And then the one that comes after
which has like 180.
Oh, is it? Okay. That one. I thought maybe I've been doing it wrong. Is the asset allocation percentage relates to the top 10 position on that, and you allocate.
The asset allocation comes just from looking at the global 10,
Yeah. Yeah.
the G10, which is
Yeah.
the 5 US, 5 globals or something like that.
Yeah.
And each one of those indexes controls 10% of the asset allocation exposure, because these are big, broad, fat, wide economic conditions with the S&P in the middle, kind of.
Yeah.
So that governs the asset allocation model.
Yeah.
The ETF Max simply, the ETF 100 are certainly liquid enough. The ETF 180, there's about 180 in the ETF Max that are liquid enough to own. There's another one that is like all ETFs, but some of them trade like $50,000 a day. So you can't forget it. And you start getting overlaps where there could be 5 different ETFs that are measuring the semiconductor sector.
Yeah.
Oh, I get diversification because I own the top 3.
Yeah.
No, they're all semiconductor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's why
I've seen that.
I look at the 100 for information,
Right.
and specialization. And you look at it, you say, hey, the top 10 of that was like China large caps, China small caps, broad China real estate.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I get it.
It's all China.
China.
No one
And then in the ETF 13 or 22 or something, or 32, that'd be like FXI.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So FXI is okay. So I look at that kind of for info, but I can sort of like, I might see something of interest on the ETF 100 that lets me go speculate in on. I'll go look at the chart and say, yeah, okay, I could do that. So you get a little bit of discretion.
Okay.
But really, this is between the 13 and the 32.
Yeah, it makes more sense really, because I've been like,
what I like about the 22 is it adds the XLs in there.
Yeah.
And I'm already looking at E, F, K, and I in here and in here. So I like having the flexibility. But, I would just tell you, I never own XLE in this because it doesn't last for a month.
It doesn't, yeah.
And F doesn't last for a month.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when I see the BMR, it could just be the luck of the draw that day when the end of the month numbers were run, and I look in there and I say, oh shit, XLE and XLF. God damn it. Do I cheat sometimes and go down and look at 4 and 5? Yeah. And then I just bring those into 3 and 9.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons I tell people to use 13.
Okay.
Is because it avoids the problem with XLE and XLF.
Sure. Okay. Right. Great. Okay. That's helped a lot. Okay. Anyway, I've been
So
running
that's kind of that's the theory behind.
Yeah. No, it's great.
So this is the BMR. This is like slow swing, fast swing, pure day. 30-minute charts, rarely overnight, only with markets money. Special case. Then this one is always overnight, and try to just keep managing the position where they are in the stack, and just keep adjusting the stop, tucking it up.
Yeah.
And then that money rolls to cash. When its run is done and it rolls to cash, it just back into the wheelbarrow of cash. And now which ones are good enough to venture into, and kind of take into account the asset allocation model. But even on the 3 and the 9 day, if I look at if the asset allocation model is above 50%, I'll go for it. I know how to, I'm really just playing the patterns like the SSC and the collapsing dragon,
Mhm.
SSC. The one that dominates on this one is Kata 2.
Right.
And the Z3 pinch. Because then you get, I like things that do this and then settle down into this.
Yeah.
It might be that that little pullback was enough to keep it out, to kick it out of the top 3. Because something else was in its shooting star phase. So now this one is no longer in the top 3, but I sure love adding, getting back on board that one. Could you get this?
Yeah.
And as long as it's north of the PSAR, I'm pretty happy with that. And the PSAR on the 3 and 9 day dominates.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that should give you some ideas, Hamad, about how to start thinking about, because what you've done is you've proven that in the tactical hand-to-hand combat that you can enter that on any day and win or not lose. That's a huge, that is a huge advantage in terms of risk management. When you do that, most people look at that as taking a risk. I look at that as I'm taking a risk off of these other longer term systems.
Yeah.
Because I got an engine that gives me power to take rapid advantage of a short term thing like NVIDIA, or take a hedge against some craziness like COVID or whatever. All right, does that give you enough to think about?
Yeah, plenty. Just to kind of recap some of the things you said about the BMR. So you would use the moving average filter to kind of give you an idea which targets to look at on the 3 and 9 day chart. Did I get that right?
No. On the 3 and the 9 day, I look at everything in the herd.
Okay.
Because it takes you only 10 minutes to look at 30 symbols. I look at them all. And so on the 3 and 9 day, I can actually take this trade, the SSC.
Mm-hmm.
I may not take it. Maybe I just decide filter 1 and then let me take Kata 2. So I'll take that in the 3 and 9 day because I know that.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing for this. And I'm only risking this much. And then if this fails, I know what I'm doing there.
Yeah.
But it could be when it's in this position, it might be under its 4-month moving average. Well, yeah, because it was a harsh winter.
Mm-hmm.
But if that was XLE and it does this, you think I'm afraid of buying that? No.
Yeah.
That's my favorite move. Because I have a Kata 2 on that shape, and I have an SSC on this shape.
Yeah.
And I have a very clear, I can get short one position here and short 2 positions here on catastrophic failure. But if it works, I got all of this potential to the upside until it actually tests up here.
Yeah.
And there might be, I might get out and then get back in, get out, up, and get back in. So as long as I know what to do inside the grand channel, and I know how to read these patterns, and I know how to read those little tactical patterns. Now, if you're doing that in the 3 and the 9 day, which is where you want to get to, the BMR and the SMA4 that's on a monthly chart, it has to be above the 4-month. So if that's the 4-month SMA, when this thing is working, hey, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when this thing drops down into here and starts doing this, I'm never owning that with the BMR, because the BMR is on the ones that are up in here. That takes care of the upside. The fact that this thing was amazing and then was horrible and just started to recover gives me tactical reasons. So I can't get that from a BMR, but I can start getting it from here. And as this thing keeps working, at some point, the 30-minute swing trade starts working. And then at some point, it might be the best candidate for the day trade. But I'd actually like to just day trade with the ones that are optimized for day trading each and every day. It could be that occasionally you get like, hey, it's when EWW is in that kind of a move and it's also a day trade. That's when I am the happiest. When Brazil and EWW get smashed and start working their way up, awesome, because I'm day trading them and short-term swing trading them, and they might actually be improving on the 3 and the 9 day. I'm making all my money there.
Yeah.
Because it's just the same symbol. And I get to see it on a short-term, 30-minute, 3 and 9 day. And man, that takes me literally 2 seconds a day to update my trading plan for tomorrow for them on every time frame. So that's why having that, that short list of probably a dozen things, and you make sure that all of those are also over on the BMR.
Yeah.
And now you have end-to-end visibility of that thing. Hey, back over to Kian. I wanted to make sure we get all of your stuff.
Okay, I have got stuff, and we might to schedule another thing, but why don't I just give you the lay of the land like today,
Okay.
and where I'm at with what we did last time, and then
Yeah.
let me just share my screen. It'll be easier. Because where is it? This one. Yeah, because you've gone a long time. You can see the screen now.
Yep.
Okay. So I haven't done as well as Hamad since the last time I talked to you. That's a month ago, and it's all, well, here's the histogram, and you can see. So we just to recap. So we talked about quite a lot of things, and one of the things was about getting it before the PSAR flip, P-1 as I call it. And then we talked about jump stops, which I've also added to my day trading. So the P-1, took a bit of time to get going, and sometimes I jump the gun in because it's hard to tell, not because I wanted to. When the price goes across a PSAR, you think, okay, that maybe it's about to flip. Then you have to make a lot of judgments. And sometimes I went too early, especially the first few times I tried it. And then jump stops, generally they work quite well. I think they kind of suit the temperament and suit what I wanted to do, and it helped me capture.
You're actually going to find that works better on the 3 day and the 9 day.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The longer the time frame, the greater the absolute distance from when the R10 rolls over, and it's keeping you clearly out of the noise. So the closer you get towards the 3 minute, you're gonna have it'll get you out. But if that was just noise, then you have to have
exactly.
then you have to hold your nose and get right back in again. It's like, well, then why the hell? And then that can cause
exactly.
It'll give you some cognitive dissonance.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
So you're absolutely right.
The longer the time frame, the better that is.
Yeah. So anyway, so I did what I can do. I just try and go through the reps. It's not very good. I've just basically losses, small losses. So it's a good if you want to put a positive spin and try to do
Yeah,
that
the
from a
trade sequence plot is that what I am noticing there is the positive slope of the regression line in the bottom middle. Now, the fact that that's positive is slowly better.
Yeah.
The cumulative R, is that execution R or is that including the admin?
No, that excludes admin. That's just execution.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're learning the patterns.
Yeah, we're learning, and there are all kinds of reasons that I'm trying to think of what's happening there. So
I like that. All right. So the 0.5
sorry,
is sort of like the worst losses you're taking. So
yeah,
we're good on the risk management.
yeah,
Yeah. We're looking stable. Okay. All right. I think we're just in the process of refining still.
yeah. I think
And I think some of the now what system is this one reporting? What are the is this?
so it's the I'm trading the GBP USD the cable 3 minute.
Okay, so this is in the future. So it's just 3 minute.
Yeah.
Pound.
Yep.
I want to move you to the 5 minute on that one and watch what Brian's doing.
Okay.
I think that's going to help with some of the noise.
Yeah, I
Go
think
to 5 minutes on that because
okay.
he's looking pretty stable. In fact, I have not opened up his status report. He sent it to me last night. Bob Rourke already opened it up and looked at it. He's Trader X.
Okay.
And he said it was a very impressive grinding, and that's going to be what we want. So I'm going to send that to you.
That's awesome. I think that's what I need because
because I think that's the same ones that you're kind of looking at as well.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So my experience with FX is similar to Brian's, where on the 3 minutes it was way too choppy in NFX.
Yeah.
But then the 5 minutes was really smooth and you can capture really nice trends.
Okay.
The other thing is like specifying a specific time of day to trade it because you want to capture it at moments in time where all demographics are present.
Yeah.
So that would be like your London Open or even better, like the New York Open. If you're
No,
not
the
trading,
New York Open is definitely the best because I've
Yeah.
recorded all these things here. Well, this probably doesn't show you so well, but I record all the time in half-hour chunks of where I'm actually profitable and where and this is London time, of course. So 1:30 is 2:30 is 9:30 US. This has the US time in it, but the other one has got the shading. So I'm trying to get to a place where I might not actually trade the UK London session because I just can't find it. That's my other problem. I can't sit there 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And, because morning I have to do stuff and then sometimes, so that's the other thing. And it doesn't look that great anyway, because from 7 to 8:30, it seems to be taking all these trades, so they're all producing losses. So chop and stuff like that. So maybe, definitely something from 1:30 onwards for UK time. I think might be.
Yeah, I think you need to. Yeah, I'm looking at Brian. I just downloaded Brian's stuff.
Yeah.
You need to be the three. You guys need to be trading together. That in that way, use those rules, work together on a phone or a chat room, and just start producing on that rule set. The three of you together, because you share a common framework, time frame, skill set, insights, and you're triangulating the time zones.
Yeah.
Between Dubai, London, and down under.
Sure.
And I notice Hamad, you've been working with Brian on, and I'm looking at his numbers there. So I'm not going to beat that to death, but goddamn, you guys are going to ended up being the fucking, pardon my language, Forex and gold users group.
Yeah.
I hope so, man. Yeah,
I
I'm struggling, to be honest. I mean, I just keep wondering what is going on. Anyway, so there's another thing that I want to just probably bring up, and we might not talk about it. So what I'm doing is this thing called the spread. So I've been using this spread betting account because in the UK we have
Right.
those.
Yep. I know the deal.
But yeah, the way they take the commission is in the wide spread, right? And for a long time, and that really the way that, so there's a wide spread, so it takes like 0.13 is that's the cents,
Yep.
that's 13 cents. Okay, so my risk box is $1.50. That's equivalent to my 0.01 lot in the forest speak. You know, at, I can't remember, whatever it is, it gives you with a 15 pip, you know, risk box or whatever that is. So it always, it fooled me for a long time. I was struggling with this until I put on my chart the bid and offer separately, because the chart draws or it drew on the sell price like it's showing here. So, and I was really struggling because if I, you know, for example, if I go to no lose plus did it for 2, it's about here, but then there is a 13 cent spread. That means the buy price, if I'm short here, the buy price will kick it out much sooner, you know, if I
it's the price plus 13.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the commission. So I have to deduct, I've deducted like 10 cents as the commission. But it really messes with your mind because you're looking at the P&L and a break even is like minus 13 cents, and you say, what, that doesn't, you know, what's going on here, you know? So that really is a bit something I'm sure.
That's a mindset. And you also, so then you got to factor that into the reward to risk ratio, that you're always going to be on the wrong side of that one. And I don't know that spread betting is the right way to do it. I don't, why do that?
The reason I do it is because it's the only thing I found that gives me the smallest, you know, risk size I can get. I might have to change that because I think it's affecting me.
Yeah, I'm thinking straight Forex or futures Forex.
Yeah, just go.
It doesn't have that
just
issue.
take the spot, man. Like on FX, you just want to take the spot.
Yeah,
because then I don't see the commission effect until afterwards, and that's fine. You know?
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trading the system rather than the profit and loss.
Yeah, and I think we should also need to get Luke rolled into this one too. He may already be, but you know, the two of you plus Brian and Luke, and I just think that the 5 minute, because Constantine is showing the way also what he's doing with the gold and the US dollar. I mean, he's just doing the same thing, but he's doing it with
the gold and US
proprietary money.
Yeah, he's really good. I mean, he just takes that one trade and it's like 5 hours a day. That's it. Done.
And smashes. I mean,
he's
he's on the 5 minute.
Yeah.
And he's he's noticing when it's getting near yesterday's high and low as the critical state turning point. And he is relentless and ruthless about taking the entry signal. So I just think, I think the three of you guys, you two plus Brian, and probably Luke when he's ready, because he's trading in this area too. I just think you guys got to make a commitment as a small group for mutual mentoring and coaching eye and sharing what's working.
Yeah.
And Ken, what I think you got to do is you got to take to heart what I'm saying about the confident communications model.
Okay. Not familiar with it, but
you
went through it just now, but okay.
Yeah, so the communications model says the way you move from uncertainty through superstition to instincts to beliefs to habits is a process of communication with yourself about the things that you know, and that you can have confidence in the things that you know because you've done the due diligence as certified by evidence. And that you got to be able to tell a confident story that persuades your inner doubter. And the way you do that with your self-talk is the same way that your communication manifests in the external world talking to others. So if we are uncertain about what we're doing and feel incomplete in our external communication of what we're doing and when we're talking to others, then that's a reflection of what's going on our internal talk. So to create confident communications is to overcome those three: anxious perfectionist, introverted expert, and reluctant leader. The techniques that I'm using in order to be able to speak in public as a public, those are the same things that I got to do internally to persuade myself to get out of my own way, that I can act on this with an appropriate level of confidence, with a certain risk profile, and be decisive about that in order to then be able to tell and that's why I think it's really important for you guys to get together and practice your own coaching eye for each other and for yourself, so that you can get into the confident communication mode for internal learning and external performance. The communications model is the governing factor in how fast I can learn new material. Is because if you're not ever confident that you learned the previous lesson, and then you go into a new lesson, you're carrying forward all of the uncertainty and unconfidence and trying to learn a new thing when your fear part is saying, hey, I never really learned the other thing sufficiently as a solid foundation upon which to proceed. So we're only getting 60% confidence multiplied by 10 things that are built. Of course, that whole thing is feeling shaky. So,
Yeah. Okay.
So the confident communication model that I showed earlier, the 9-stage or the 9 frames with 3 stages and 3 levels in there, that's where you got to get to with confidence about, hey, what am I doing and what am I trying to do and how is it going specifically, and having the thick skin of the badger say, okay, well, yeah. But saying, yeah, I also got the claws and teeth to do the work and the thick skin to protect me as I'm doing this thing. And then I can be mindful and diligent and overcome analysis paralysis and send the badger back in there to go after the anxious perfection. Let's go, buddy. Let's go. You got a badger to protect you. Let's go. And the mindful scout, I'm working on the right things and I'm diligent in my studies. So as you start emphasizing the developmental processes, those turn out to be the skills and the techniques to get you away from the fear and anxiety and to just move you out of discovery and into development and onwards towards performance. So that's what I need you to be doing with Hamad and Brian and Luke, is engaging, and Chi Weng is engaging and with confidence about what you're doing and not dabbling. Because if you're doing this once a month just to avoid the working in public on your stuff, then that's symptomatic of an underlying confidence, which comes from your communication style with yourself. So you've got to learn to use the same language that you use to teach your children, is to be gentle but firm with teaching yourself, the inner child that's working on improving these techniques. So we gotta, I don't expect the baby to walk the first time or the second. What are you gonna, oh, I told you how to walk. You're not walking. Done. I'm done with it. No, you're not. The walking is the innate nature of the baby that will just grow. So that's the kind of the mindset of the persistence and resilience of the parent with the loving relationship with the child and their development. Relentless, you know.
Mm.
So that's
No, I hear you.
that's
Just,
my
fine.
emotional affective domain speaking in here of what needs to be done.
Okay. No, I hear you, but I would just say that the monthly thing, it's not because
I know.
I want to
I
present
just
it
say
to
that
you.
I say that so that you can reject that as an
Yeah,
explanation.
I seriously that it takes time
Yeah, it takes
for me
time to
to
settle
grind
in.
through these things. I'm not doing that, no, I don't sometimes don't
A
get it.
rain barrel does not fill faster
Yeah.
because you're looking into it every day.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
rain barrel fills at the rate of rain and
Yeah.
your gutter and capture system.
Yeah. And one of the things that I thought was, I need to do this regularly, like systematically, but I can't do it 5 days a week. At the moment, I'm not doing it five
Right.
days a week. But I do realize that, okay, I might choose the day to trade, like Kamal was saying, it's a
Yeah.
grind day. And then, okay, so you get the grind day, you maybe end up, minus 0.5 or whatever. And then the next day when I'm off running an errand and I've got real life examples of this, then the GBP is like trending day like nobody's business, as you're looking at it
Yeah.
while you're out there looking at your chart saying, oh man, I wish I was trading this stuff, but I don't. So I was just thinking, I need to do it at least enough time. So randomly, I would hopefully choose a grind day and then one trading day and trending day, so that there's enough for the data set. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you the Brian's number. I mean, god damn, the FX pairs is a 2-to-1 coin flip that pays 3-to-1.
I wish I'm
I mean,
getting it
come on,
but
come on, let's go.
that's the thing.
And
Oh,
that's with 70 trades. So let's go. And the gold is an equal coin flip that pays 3.5-to-1. Let's go. So
how am I not getting that? That's what I'm
just
asking.
it's time to put your
Right.
coveralls on and your gloves and a shovel and a hard hat and let's
Yeah.
go. Let's start shoveling. Let's
I
just
just have, yeah.
it's good enough to trade.
The one thing I'm gonna say is that you don't know if it's gonna be a trending day or not.
Right?
That's
You
it.
got to be.
There, right?
That's right. And the beauty is each day is different, so
Yeah.
it can always be that, and it either is or it isn't.
The one thing I've noticed you can do in FX, and this is something I've never done prior to taking on Ken's framework, was in the FX world back in the market making days, they'd be like, don't trade the data days. Now I'm actually, the way I'm thinking about it now, because I'm so heavily engaged in my stocks trading system, if I trade FX, one of the things I'm thinking about is only trade data days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because typically what happens is the price is going to be locked up in a Z3P, just buy the breakout. Buy or sell the breakout. If it goes one direction, fantastic. If it reverses, take the stop and reverse.
Yep.
Yeah.
Typically you get
Exactly
big.
like this, and sometimes it runs too far. This is a data day, so this is a
Yeah.
whatever.
That's
I mean,
just
this
true.
this is
And
typically
boom, and then but sometimes it runs pretty well. Sometimes even here after this, that's actually quite a big
Yep.
run
The
comparative.
second leg up is the continuation on the extreme right
Yeah.
third of the
Mhm.
And I was sitting here getting FOMO and frustrated because I wasn't trading that day. You're sitting there just looking at it, going, "What the heck?"
No,
It could be
go
something like that. And again, that this is the opposite, right? It goes and then it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, but that day you don't lose much by trying.
Yeah,
I mean,
And you didn't get hit by the big loss. You don't
no,
lose much by trying. And then on days that it trends, you make good bank.
that's that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm thinking I should be doing. That should be the thing. I just want to show something else.
Yeah.
The things I get, this bit here, this is what I call the double whipsaw, and that's following the rules still. You tend to get this, pizza flip, get in, and then okay. Unfortunately, I got out at the spine, which is an additional stop rather than the pizza. And then I have a re-entry, and it was kind of valid when the thing was price was
Yeah, I
developing.
take both of those.
Yeah, and then but it's hard, when you have
Right.
this.
I know it's hard. If it was easy, we couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact
And
that it's hard is what gives you an edge.
yeah, and I tell myself in those days that okay, you just got to keep following the next pattern that comes along, and then keep hoping that will
Yeah, it's
make
like,
up.
hey, I want to get strong, so I'm going to go lift a weight today. All right, really? Is that what you're going to do? Okay. If I lift the right weight.
Yeah. Anyway, so those are the kind of things that kind of really it hits the P&L. Not that it hits the P&L. And after you get 1 or 2 in the morning and you kind of become a bit, so it's really hard to do those things.
Yeah, but
But
that's where it's supposed to feel after a big move. It had 2 legs up. So I'm not allowed to
these
be
two, yeah.
surprised. Yeah, it had 2 legs up, starting from the first
Yeah.
third. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Leg 1, leg 2, and now it's you're going to that's you were playing the reversal. Okay. So now it had 2 strong legs up, then the 2 reversal trades that failed, then the third reversal trail at the yellow dot succeeded, but only halfway. That's information. The Kata 2 that worked after that was massive and went to new highs and emerging dragons. So, each one of these is just one trade of the next 1,000 you're going to take. And the other way to look at that too, go all the way down and look at the MACD histogram. Look how pronounced. Go to the left. Look how big the red and then the yellow was on the first, and now look at the next red and yellow combo.
Yeah,
just look at the absolute value of that's a Kata 2 from MACD, which predicts the big move and up and to the right. That's the other way to look at this thing is,
this is a grind. This is a really small range day. Sometimes it doesn't move very well. Like Kamal was saying, I just scratch it, but it could have knocked me out anyway down here. Really.
Yeah, I'm looking for my view.
I'll try 5 minutes. That'll give me something to do for next week. Or going forward and see how that works.
Yeah, and if I can recommend something, like just from now on, set yourself go like, okay, I'm busy from, I don't know, New York Open next 3 hours. No phone calls, no meetings, no errands. That's kind of what I do at home. Like for me, market opens at 5:30 New York, 5 p.m. No one's allowed to speak to me. I don't do any errands. I don't do anything. I just prepare myself. So
working here.
Yeah. Like set expectations.
Yeah, I still got that's the thing. I haven't really dedicated the time because I've still got my other stuff, other strategies that I actually look at during US hours. That's why this has not been the main thing for me. And I'm actually wondering if day trading is the thing for me at all. So
yeah, this is what I was trying to say was
that it could be that's
the difference in it. So
sorry.
So this is big. And this is the next leg up. And this one, this failure only got halfway down the stack. So now this little piece in here, that's good. And so the reentry's got to be this one. And so we already have a Kata 2 in our mind. And we're still in the green here. So we got to be taking that. This is my big heavy alert. Long side bias where it crosses the 0 line. So somewhere in here. Yeah, that's a great entry. And your PSAR dot protected you all the way up. Protect the PSAR, or respect the PSAR.
Yeah, and then the other thing, Ken, here is I don't know if you can just clear this part here. I'll tell you why. This with the jump stops and all that. And goes back to the kind of price reversals that.
This is not a jump stop.
Because but it's
the R10,
it's come back one whole piece of risk box, which is my.
Okay, all right.
So
to me, the jump
I shouldn't be getting out here, but it's quite frustrating because, and plus with that spread I was telling you about, it's really difficult to kind of fine tune it, right?
Yeah.
And then you see, actually this is not too bad because it would have hit the spine here it would have been exactly the
Yeah,
same.
this is
Right.
about where it should be.
Yeah, so that's okay. That's okay, right? That's not too
Yep.
bad. But this one is super ridiculous, right? Because you got to reverse a whole piece
Yeah,
out
well,
box.
I think what Hamad's recommendation should help fix that.
Yeah, let's go to the 5 minutes. So I stopped, because it really has these big reversals that gets on your mind,
Yeah.
So that's I think part of it. I think we've covered some of the things that I think are the issues, and
Yeah,
I think
it's just each trade is just one of the next 1,000.
Yeah.
You got to remember that too. Okay.
Cool. All right. Great. Thanks, everyone.
I think the 3 and the 9 day is going to help with the jump stop too.
With this one, I don't know if
Well,
I can
just later on when you start looking at BMR.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you're looking really at both ends of the widest extent.
Yeah.
How to refine the BMR in a way that uses skill.
Yeah. Okay. Super cool. That's really great. Got things to try. Keep going forward. So
okay, what else we got?
That's it really. I think I don't have any issues.
Well, that's a good day at work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Spread
got that.
MFE and the whip. So I showed you everything and we talked about everything. Yep. So I think there's, it's good.
Yeah, again, I frankly, as someone who spent his entire career trading FX, I wouldn't spend 8 hours a day trading FX. I just specialize in like either the London Open, New York Open, and that's it. 3-4
I think
hours.
US Open is where I would focus, because it looks like most of the stuff is happening.
And the reason that works is because all the other guys that are trading FX have come to the same conclusion. Yeah. So they trade when they trade.
Yeah.
And then that's what's causing the big bumps.
And it's very clear because I haven't got the chart for it, but maybe this one. So this is like London morning. Look at how small the moves is compared to, of course, this is day to day, but still, I notice that if I spend my time in the morning, it's actually quite small,
Yeah. You got to catch them when when are the fish biting?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, that's great. That's at least I got something to go for on that one and the 5 minutes.
Why are you fishing in that part of the lake? Because that's where the fish are. Why are you fishing at this time? Because this is when they're hungry. Oh, okay.
No, definitely. When the big fish are
going to be a fisherman. Yeah. And the little fish attract the big fish.
Yeah.
Little fish eat at this time. The big fish come to eat on the little fish.
Yeah.
So we got to time and tune it. All right. That's everything I got. I got to go get ready for a soccer match, and good to see you guys. I'll get this processed and posted and in the usual spot.
Okay, thanks guys.
And then Hamad, if you can send me your little 1-page.
I just did send it to you. It's a PDF. I can send you the Word document if you want to amend
things. The PDF is fine. I'm just going to take a snapshot of it and
okay, perfect.
Get that done. All right. Take good care, guys. Have a good rest of the weekend.
Yes, thank you.
Cheers.